What is up, folks? Welcome to the latest episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I'm your gracious host, as always, Harold McBasketball, along with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. Paul, how are you?
I'm great. Today was the nor'eastern here in Massachusetts, and it was like 2 inches of snow. Businesses closed. They were saying it was going to be a massive storm. It was all a lie. It was nothing. But I appreciated my day inside. So, how are you, Harry?
Yeah, good. It's clear that I'm gonna butcher this name, but Punsatani
Um,
Phil, the groundhog. No idea how to pronounce his name. It's full of bullshit. He needs to be relegated, sent to the G League, sent to the Chinese League. I don't know, but he's got to be gone. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm seeing snow everywhere right now. Winter is still here. He's a
yeah,
fraud, and we need to get him out of here. He's past his prime. 39% success rate feels like that's going to drop to 38%. The efficiency is just not there. He's clearly past his prime, so to get him out of here.
and not to dogpile, but I think like his ancestors and like the groundhogs that preceded him that I think have the same name, all not great prediction rates. So I forget the one from Michigan's a bit better. There are multiple groundhogs. For whatever reason, Groundhog Year this year was like a bit Groundhog Day this year was a bit more on my radar than typically, and I learned some groundhog facts. There's a lot of them, and they're typically all wrong, but some are better than others.
Yeah. Phil was the first. He's got the legacy, which is why
Oh,
people care about him. But it's very clear that he's well past his prime. That other groundhogs have surpassed him as far as talent goes. So it does look like it's about time for him to hang it up. And like it's always weird when you see kind of like an old veteran still trying to stick around, but it's like it feels like he needs to. If he wants to stick around, he's willing to accept more of a role player position, I think. And we're just not seeing it. It's sad. So I don't know. He needs to take a hit and retire, but who knows?
he's got a big fan base and a lot of people that he seems to be like the main one, the one that everyone kind of.
Yeah. He still gets all of the clicks on the internet. Like the engagement's definitely still there with them. He's still selling out arenas. So I guess the money's still there, but it's still the product isn't quite what it once was, although it has never been too great.
Anyway.
Basketball.
Yeah, let's talk basketball. Specifically, reacting to the trade deadline. Um, a lot of trades went down in that last 24 hours. We reacted to the Pascal trade, obviously, and the Rozier trade. Gave our thoughts there. Then there was kind of a couple days of nothingness, and then per usual, the last day, some things went down. So we're just gonna give our brief reactions, maybe more in depth on some trades that we really liked or disliked, and then maybe also touch on some teams that left us scratching our heads with maybe their lack of action, you know, at the trade deadline. So, who do you want to start with, Harry? You want to talk a trade that really tickled you?
Yeah. And to kind of like preface it, like obviously this was not the most exciting trade deadline. Like we didn't really
Yeah.
see any big moves made on the last day. There were whispers that maybe like DeJounte Murray would get moved. That didn't happen. But I don't hate how it turned out. Like I think a big part of it is that a lot of the big names just happened to get moved before the deadline. Like had like Siakam not been traded until the deadline, then like that would have been like the huge move of it. But like he had already been moved, so like the OG Anunoby for RJ Barrett trade already happened. So they're already kind of like the biggest moves feel like they already happened.
Yeah.
So it was still kind of like an eventful trade year, but the deadline wasn't like super explosive. But I think there's still some interesting moves that were made. And definitely some teams got better. I think I think the most buzz so far has been for the Knicks, who feel like they finally dug into their assets a little bit and made some moves to get better right now. The latest deal being the trade where they got Bojan Bogdanovic from the Pistons along with Alec Burks. And I think they gave up 2 second rounders, Quentin Grimes, and then some salary filler with like Evan Fournier and a couple other players. But really the headline is like they get Bogdanovic, who's been awesome. Alec Burks is like a solid guy to have off the bench. And they really didn't give up too much other than Grimes, who's like a promising young guy, but they have so much depth now at the small forward position that it feels like he probably wasn't get the minutes anyway to really develop. So he gets to be put into a better situation for his development with Detroit. So I thought that was a good move. Like that move paired with Obviously, the OG Anunoby trade they made earlier this year makes a ton of sense. The Knicks have been on fire recently. I feel like they only get better with this deal. And I like it. They feel dangerous and they still have pretty much all of their first round picks. So, if something opens up this summer, they still could be in contention to land, a superstar type player. So love it for the Knicks. They've been awesome. They've been really exciting this year, which I love.
I think they would be my biggest winner of the deadline too. Bojan is obviously awesome, great forward depth. He's big, he shoots the lights out, and Alec Burks still shows some life in his career. So, two good moves. I like Quentin Grimes a lot. I think he's a great shooter, great defender, and he's still young. Not sure how young exactly. I'll look it up a bit later, but
Yeah,
um,
I can look it up right now.
yeah, kind of a win-win for both teams. But ultimately more of a win for the Knicks, who landed, I think, like a really good role player in Bojan. Um, and yeah, it's
Grimes only 23 years old. He's young.
yeah, he's great.
23.
A very efficient shooter.
Yeah,
Um,
great shooter. Like he definitely has potential to be like just like this solid 3-point shooting small forward. So we'll kind of see how he progresses, but he's definitely a good player to have and definitely awesome for like a rebuilding Pistons.
yeah, and I think hilariously he was maybe the roadblock that stopped the Donovan Mitchell trade, or as
Yeah.
rumored.
Yes.
Um, And he kind of fell out of the rotation a bit this year with the Knicks getting less minutes than he had previously. Granted, they're a pretty stacked team at this point, but I like his potential. I've watched a decent amount of Knicks basketball over the past couple of years, and Quentin Grimes is cool. Um, and yeah, 2 second round picks is nothing. Evan Fournier was, I think, pretty not loving his situation there in New York. Maybe he can find some minutes, but yeah, Evan, my boy, I
Probably,
think. I think
probably not gonna get any minutes on the Pistons.
yeah,
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he's just little
it's
past his prime. And I think the league has also kind of passed him by a little bit.
a
Where like
little.
his shooting still is great, but it's like you kind of just need a little bit more defensively from forwards at this point of the game.
Yeah, I think a EuroLeague move could be good for him, and he's French, and he's still a great player for the French national team. But yeah, I think the NBA has kind of passed him by. But anyway, um, yeah, Knicks awesome moves. I think the Randall question, I think he is still kind of a big question mark in this roster because they have such incredible role players, such a great star. I think he's just a certified star in Brunson. And Randall is kind of a bit of a wild card. Obviously, we know he can be great, but I think we see how he can kind of hurt the team, especially in the playoffs. He can be very inefficient or kind of take over a bit too much. So, you know, their ceiling is still maybe the conference finals at absolute best. They still, I don't know. I think they still have to answer that question, or maybe Randall will answer it by coming back and being awesome. So we'll see.
Yeah, although they're close to the top of the standings in the East right now, it doesn't quite feel like they're on the same level as all those other teams because it's just tough to put teams in that category when you don't have like a star like Tatum, Giannis, Jokic, like those kind of guys. Like it still feels like you need to have one of those guys to be a true finals threat. Although the Heat have kind of proven that you can do it with, someone who might be a tier below like Butler. But like regardless, like even if they can pull off like a decent playoff run, like that's fun and exciting for the Knicks. They're going in the right direction. Everyone's under contract for a while. They've got tons of assets to make a move if they do decide that the Randall fit isn't perfect, because then he can kind of be salary in any kind of move. So the future's bright, and I do think things are like a little bit better with Randall now because I think him and Barrett were a little redundant. So by getting rid of Barrett, you just get rid of like a little you get rid of some of the shot chucking on the team to where like it feels okay having like Randall be the only like somewhat inefficient lefty forward shot chucker. And like this year he has taken a clear backseat behind Brunson, whereas like maybe in years before it's like he was still trying to be the number one guy, but it's clear Brunson's the best guy in the team now. They're playing like it. So I think him being the second guy to Brunson rather than him trying to be the first guy and Brunson be the second guy is really good for this team. It makes them better and it makes it a little bit easier to have Randall on the roster and still get wins. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how it works out because I don't think it's as dire for them to move Randall anymore.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think for them to really be contenders, I think Randall still kind of maybe is a blockade to that. But at the same time, no, they have so many great players and a clear star, so they got better, and I do see them as, you know, the tier right below contenders. Um, I think they could beat anyone in the East in a series. It's just a question about, you know, doing it for 3 rounds.
Yeah, and they're so well functioning right now and well run. Like the front office is really figuring it out. Tibbs has always been awesome. Like even
Oh, you're not
play
talking
40.
in the Knicks front office. You were saying just technical
Yes, yes.
difficulties. We're back. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. The intern will cut that out, and if he doesn't, he's fired. But yeah, we're saying the front office is doing a good job, and weirdly, a team that I think we can kind of compare them to right now is obviously like a perfect, um, comparison would be the Brooklyn Nets when they had like D'Lo and they were really overperforming, and everyone's like, "Wow, this like front office is really turning it around. The coaching staff is awesome. The vibes are amazing." And like because they were in such a good spot, that allowed them to go and pursue other guys, which is when they got like Kyrie and Durant. And I can see like the Knicks kind of being in a similar spot where like superstars are gonna want to play there right now. Like they're the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson is amazing. The depth is awesome, and they have all the assets to make a trade. So if someone gets disgruntled, I feel like the Knicks are now gonna be at the top of that list, and they're gonna say, "Trade me the Knicks," and the deal's gonna be Julius Randle, maybe a little more salary filler, and then like 8 first-round picks, and that could literally get them anybody. So maybe it's like Kevin Durant, maybe it's somebody else, but that's the type of move that they're in position to make right now. So they can kind of just like hold the line and be pretty good until someone's ready to make that move, and they could totally be the team to grab them. So they're in an awesome spot right now. Like they don't even like, finals run would be awesome. They just need to keep being good, and then
Yeah.
they'll get that final piece.
Yeah, it seems they've found their consistency and kind of their groove as a franchise. And yeah, like you said, that's a great point. That makes a difference, I think, for guys looking for a new team. And at the end of the day, they're, I think, the biggest market in the NBA, or them or LA. So um yeah, I think we've said it all about the Knicks. Another trade I like, can I give you one?
Yes, yes. The floor is yours.
A trade that I absolutely loved is Buddy Hield to the 76ers.
Yeah.
You know, I think Buddy Hield is one of the more underrated players in the NBA. He has like consistently been maybe the best 3-point shooter. Like the past 5 years, he's very electric, and obviously the Pacers kind of outgrew him, and he kind of lost those 30 minutes that he was used to getting. He's not a perfect player by any means, but he is like an electric shooter. Um, and I just love it for him because I think Philadelphia is the perfect fit. I mean, kind of especially with Embiid being sidelined for a bit, but he's gonna get um so much opportunity to score and kind of be the second scoring option behind Maxi. Um, and yeah, no, I think he's gonna, especially for the rest of this season, he's gonna absolutely eat, and then hopefully he resigns. Because even with Embiid, I think he makes a lot of sense for that team. They kind of need a third scoring option outside of their dynamic duo, who's also not like going to need the ball in his hands constantly to score.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. We do have the benefit of a little bit of like hindsight at this point, having seen him play a couple of games with the Sixers now. He's been awesome. He's been balling for them. I think he scored 20 plus points in like 2 of the first 3 games he played with them or something like that.
Yeah.
Regardless, like he's been hooping. He's been ridiculous. And it's weird because like Buddy Hield was always a prospect I really liked. Obviously played in college for a while, so he wasn't this like super young prospect when he came to the league, but he's always just been an awesome shooter, pretty smart player, decent layup package, and just like super exciting to watch. So it's kind of weird to see him like bounce around so much, not really find a consistent place with a consistent role. And I thought this year, now like the Pacers were looking to be more like playoff contenders, I thought the fit with him and Halliburton was gonna be awesome because he is such a good off-ball shooter that I thought they would just have him play with Halliburton the whole time and just get 3 pointers, but clearly they didn't love it. I think it was probably a defensive thing where having him and Halliburton in the backcourt was a little bit of a liability. So I think by moving him to a team like the Sixers, which is a really good defensive team, I think that covers some of those gaps and makes it a little bit easier to play him for longer. And I think those value that shooting a little bit more because it's so important for them to have shooting off of Maxi and Embiid. So it's really a 2-man offense. And outside of that, you've got Tobias Harris getting threes. You've got Nick Batum who jacks up threes or throws amazing entry passes to Embiid in the post. Masterful. Everyone's talking about
Yeah.
it. And then Buddy Hield's like this awesome fit, just another amazing 3-point shooter to go next to them. He'll get a lot of open looks when Embiid is back, and until he's back, like he'll be able to create some of his own offense, get hot from the 3-point line. Like he is one of the most electric players when he's hot from the 3-point line. So it's a good fit. I feel like it was kind of a steal. Like I don't know. It's like I feel like I've always been higher on Buddy Hield than consensus. So I love this move for the Sixers. I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and a steal because the Sixers only gave up Korkmaz and I think Marcus Morris Sr. maybe
Yeah, he
a
was
second
free.
round
And
pick.
yeah, Marcus Morris went to the Spurs. Like they were just getting rid of players.
Yeah, and I think it's an expiring deal, but it feels like the Pacers were maybe a bit too hasty to, I don't know, deal. I mean, he's an expiring deal. It's the deadline. They kind of maybe have to do something with that, but yeah, but he's an excellent player. Obviously, Indiana have great, wing depth in Neesmith and Matherin that they feel are more their future direction. But Hield is awesome. I think he's like 29, 30, so he's definitely got a few more years of being awesome. And I hope he resigns in Philadelphia because again, great fit.
Yeah, and I think he's on like the longest streak. I don't know if it's ever, I think it's a current streak, but I don't think we've ever seen him play in the playoffs. Like I don't think he's ever been in the playoffs in his
Mm.
career. So I'm excited to see him on the big stage because he's always been playing not meaningless basketball, but he's just never gotten to get to the playoffs, have us watch him there. And like being in Indiana, like I feel like I just haven't seen a whole lot of him, throughout his career. So I'm excited to see him in the Sixers. I'm excited to see him in the playoffs. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, he doesn't miss a lot of games, and I think he has like he might have the most like three pointers made in the past decade or some wild stat like that. He's just um yeah.
Steph Curry exists, so I don't know about that, but maybe.
Right. Yeah, no, that doesn't seem right. Top
Yeah,
top
probably
something.
not,
I don't
but
know.
there's something. There's something there. He does hit a lot of threes though. Like he's up there.
Yeah, definitely like it was definitely a top something. Steph Curry has to be number one. Apologies,
Yeah.
that was a bit ignorant. But another trade we liked. Do you have another one?
Yeah, there's still a few more that I like. Um I really like the Thunder getting Gordon Hayward. I thought that was cool. I don't know how useful he's going to be this year. I don't really know if he's going to play. I know he's hurt right now. I'm sure he'll come back and play at some point, but we'll kind of have to see what his role looks like. Can he stay healthy for this team? But it's like he was still like pretty good the last couple of years when he was healthy. It's just like when he was playing, it was meaningless games for the Hornets. So I'm excited to see him play for a winning team again, which he hasn't done since he was on the Celtics. I think we love him a little bit more because he was on the Celtics. We kind of feel bad for how that entire situation ended because obviously, it was a little sad with him getting hurt immediately and then just never quite getting the role that we promised for him. So that was tough, but excited to see him on the Thunder. I think it's a good fit. Like, I mean, the Thunder are amazing and they're going to try to win this year. So adding one more player who's like a big shooter and good playmaker too is definitely a win. So we'll see if he starts or comes off the bench. I really like him in a sixth man role, but we'll see what they decide to do. I think he's gonna be a good contributor.
I think so too, but like you said, his health, I think he's set to miss a few more weeks, and I think he has an expiring contract, so there might be a question of whether he wants to re-sign there. Obviously, I think he has a lot of flexibility as a free agent to go elsewhere, but if he does come back, and I think he is set to come back eventually this season, I like the move as well, and I think it's if I'm Giddy, I would be a bit worried about my role because Hayward is, maybe not as good of a playmaker, but he's a capable playmaker. They're not going to leave him alone on the 3-point line. Um, and yeah, I think Giddy's role might continue to be phased out if a guy like Hayward can come in and kind of be, like you said, a sixth man, or maybe even start some games because he's very flexible like that.
Yeah, it does feel like Giddey is starting to become the odd man out for this Thunder young core. So we'll see. They still have time to let their young guys develop before they need to make any big decisions. But yeah, Hayward may cut into his minutes a little bit. And he isn't expiring, but I think the Thunder are taking that into account. Like they didn't give up much. It was Trey Mann, who actually looks decent for the Hornets. He's only played one game, but he looked good. Decent young prospect. And I think it was like 2 seconds or something like that. So they didn't give up much. And it might be something that they did just view it as a rental. Like I think they probably said like, hey, we'll get him for this one season. if we like him, then we'll consider signing him in the offseason. But if it doesn't work out or he decides to sign elsewhere, like I think what they gave up is fine, just to get him as a rental to see if he can push their championship odds a little bit higher.
They did have to trade Vasily Micic or
Yes, I
Micic.
noted that.
Um, I love him. He's already had an incredible dime to Grant Williams, who also a new Hornet. Um, yeah, if we can recall from the offseason, I was pretty big on the two former EuroLeague MVPs, whose names I don't know if it's Micic or Micic, but he's kind of
Yeah, I don't know. We'll say Micic, but like it's not a
electric
good
passing.
it's not a good sign that he's already been shadow banned to Charlotte. Like I feel like that's an indication that his NBA career is already on the ropes.
They didn't give him enough of a chance.
Okay,
Um,
dude. He's like 30.
Pick and roll Mike. Yeah, he's like
Yeah,
that.
I think at his age right now, it's like he's either gonna work in the NBA or he's not. And if he's already in Charlotte, like Grant Williams, like it's not a good sign.
Not a good sign. I feel like I don't care. Whatever. Moving on. Vesenkov, the other guy, kept yapping about I think he's set to miss like 6 weeks right now. He's injured, never got a chance. So, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but definitely not my best offseason predictions.
It's all right. It's all right. That was a hot take. It was end like the second round takes. Like, why not? Why not? One of
But
them will hit. One of
if you
the at some point we'll shout out someone in the second round and he'll be the next Jokic and then it'll be awesome. So just keep doing it.
yes. But yeah, if he finds like 25 minutes or even 20 plus minutes, I think a night in Charlotte, people will start seeing what I saw.
Well, we'll
Vesenkov,
see.
I
We'll
think is
see.
screwed.
Yeah, there's nobody really standing in the way between Micic and Minutes right now. So
Right.
so we'll see. I mean, I guess the only thing that would stand in the way would be
LaMelo.
Charlotte, which probably wants to go in a younger direction right now, so they might not see the upside with playing him, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, any other intriguing trades you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, since we mentioned Grant Williams, obviously he was dealt. This is more of the perspectives of the Mavericks. They dealt Grant Williams. I think they got PJ Washington, and then they also dealt Rashawn Holmes and somehow got Daniel Gafford back in just like a straight swap.
Yeah, yeah, they had to go to the Sam Presti Bank to make the Rashawn Holmes for Gafford trade work, and essentially what it was is the Mavs traded the Thunder. Um, the Mavs traded their 2028 pick in a pick swap with the Mavs. Oh, sorry, with the Thunder. Got back the Thunder's 2024 first round pick and then dealt the Thunder's 2024 first round pick to the Hornets. Or sorry, Wizards. I'm getting confused. There's way too many teams here. That was an awful job explaining it. That was terrible. But
Either way, I don't think I would have followed there too much. But in essence, they swapped with the Wizards there. Rashawn Holmes, who had contributed in no facet to that Mavericks team getting back. Daniel Gafford, who I think is like the perfect fit. He's like, a more advanced, version of Derek Lively in terms of like he's just kind of further along in his young career, and is a great rim protector lob threat duo. So awesome for the Mavericks. PJ Washington, I've always not been a huge fan of, but he's also dynamic. He's a pretty good offensive player. If they really didn't like Grant, I can understand that being a good trade to make, but I happen to like Grant. I don't know. He must have been annoying the fuck out of them, but I would probably just like in a vacuum rather have Grant Williams on my team. But
that's funny. I was thinking that too. I was like, is PJ Washington not just like a worse version of Grant Williams? Because like Grant Williams has like had stretches of like really good shooting and clutch shooting in the playoffs. So he does kind of give you that aspect of being this like versatile forward defender who can hit threes. And you kind of trade him and a first round pick for the same thing. But Washington's a worse shooter, better ball handler, but like he's not going to ever handle the ball. So it's like that doesn't really matter. So I agree. I thought that one was kind of interesting. I don't think that trade really did a whole lot for them other than maybe improve chemistry because I guess everybody hated Grant Williams for wearing Jason Tatum's shoes on the Mavericks. And I love the Gafford move. The Gafford move is awesome. It's like because Lively was great, but he's a rookie and they clearly just need more depth at the center position. Like they signed Holmes over the offseason, hoping that they're gonna get good minutes from him, kind of like what the Kings were getting out of him. He was a push shot god. Didn't get it. It's like he was maybe playing like 10 minutes a night. He really just wasn't playing for them at all. So now all of a sudden they have like two really good versatile centers, and one of them, Gafford, a bit more of a veteran. So I think he's gonna be more playoff ready, even though he has been playing for the Wizards. But he's older and he's looked really good. Like he had an awesome game last night where it was like double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, 5 blocks, looked incredible. So he feels like a really good fit with that team. So that was definitely an awesome move for the Mavs.
Yeah, perfect fit, perfect fit. And PJ Washington might surprise us, but it kind of feels like a Christian Wood 2.0. Like he's huge, he can catch lobs. I guess that's good.
Yeah, he looks good, but like I don't know. Yeah, what's unfortunate is like something I was reading up today is apparently there was a trade that was in place between the Wizards and the Mavs to send Kuzma to the Mavericks.
Yes,
And
I
if
saw.
PJ Washington was instead Kyle Kuzma, this would be such a home run at the trade deadline for the Mavericks. But essentially like the GM for the Wizards had the trade and went to Kuzma and was like, hey, like we have this trade on the table. We think we'd rather like to keep you, but it's up to you. Do you want to be here? Do you want to go? And Kuzma was like, I want to stay here. So Kuzma is now still on the Wizards instead of being on the Mavericks. And I think he essentially said because like he said like timelines didn't match up and he says it's all about winning a championship and he's not sure if he's, you know, essentially going to be on a championship team if he goes to the Mavericks. And I'm like, you're definitely better off there than the Wizards, but okay, he has decided to stay with the Wizards. I think he secretly also likes having a 30% usage rate and
Yeah,
knows he's not going to get that in Dallas.
maybe there's something
But
in the
I wish that happened. Yeah, and I think
maybe.
they probably could have got. I was gonna say, I think they probably could have gotten him for the same price as Washington, but maybe also decided to include like Josh Green or something like that. But
Mhm.
I think it would have been a very similar deal. They would have just got a better player out of it.
Yeah, I think Kuzma chose having the bigger role, and maybe he's incentivized through his contract. I'm just speculating, but that having a certain amount of points or whatever. And the point is, he's the man in Washington, and in Dallas, he'd be relegated to like a third option. Sucks because he'd be a great fit over there, but
Totally.
to be honest, like both franchises, I from Kuzma's perspective, I wouldn't be too excited to play for. So maybe he's just like on, Dallas. I don't know. As much as I hyped them up in the offseason and I still like them. And Luka's a basketball god. Kyrie's a basketball god. The culture there seems a bit unfortunate for anyone that's not Luka or Kyrie. You kind of just have to, fit in place and do what they want you to do, which is not a fun way to play basketball.
Yeah, and ultimately it is Kuzma's decision, and he decided he thought he was gonna be happier in Washington. And like I said, that's totally his decision. And like if he thinks he's gonna be happier there, he's probably right.
Yeah.
So you can't really fault him for it. And it's like although like the Wizards are absolutely miserable this year, it's like there probably are still silver linings to being on a team like that. Because like he probably views it that like they're so bad right now that they're gonna be getting draft capital these next couple of years. So maybe it's possible they do hit on a couple of first round picks, like they'll probably be picking top 5 the next couple of seasons. And maybe all of a sudden like a good team does start to get built around him. And then he's like the veteran and kind of the best player on this like young and upcoming good team. And like maybe that is more appealing to being on the Mavericks right now.
Yeah. And yeah, if you're happy, I think that's the best place to be, you know.
Totally. Or maybe just as a girlfriend or something in Washington, like who knows?
Yeah. I think it's a
But
nice city, Washington, D.C. I think
oh
it's
yeah, totally. So yeah, no, you can't fault them for it. There's more that goes into these kind of decisions than just,
yes.
like who you're playing basketball with.
All right. I have one more trade that I kind of like, and then I think that's it. I don't have any other trades that I put under my trades I liked section.
Yeah, give me the trade you like.
It's a little one, but the Timberwolves got Monte Morris, who I think is a very solid backup point guard. And I like the trade for both teams. Pistons got back Troy Brown Jr., who he's just like a
Wow,
guy. I like
great.
him. He plays decent games. And Shake
Very,
Milton.
he's very THT and Troy Brown Jr. Definitely.
No,
I feel like they're filling the same void for you.
I think THT has way more upside than Troy Brown Jr., but I don't know. Troy Brown Jr. is like a decent scorer. I think he's like 23, 20. Why do I do this to myself? I just
And to Monte Morris.
Monte Morris is a good backup point guard. They didn't give up too much. I do like Troy Brown Jr. on the low though. I think he's cool.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I thought it was a fine trade. I didn't really have it on mine. I was like, yeah, cool. Like they get Monte Morris. I think there was a lot of talk like their offense has been like pretty bad like the last couple of weeks. So they did need someone to make it better. don't think Monty Morris changes their lives. Like it probably doesn't really move the needle for them at all. But he's a good player. Like I'd rather have him than not have him. So like kudos to the Timberwolves for that.
Yeah, for sure. Any other trades? The Celtics, we got Tillman, who I think has great defensive upside, but he seems offensively pretty just useless.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna
Fournette,
be his
Fournette,
minutes are gonna be a little limited, I think, because of his offense, but great defender. Like I think he is gonna be a good Swiss Army knife to put out there when needed, or just get like 15 minutes out of him in the playoffs. So I like the move. I think it's a good move, and he was free, so why not?
right? Yeah, our big man depth is not great outside of Zingis and Al Horford. It's Cornette and oh, why do I forget his name? We like him though. He's huge in rebound.
Oh, I don't know, because he like just came onto the scene like a month ago. What's his name?
Yeah, god damn it.
It's like I want to say like Queta or something, but like it's not
Yeah,
quite that.
it is. Yeah, it's Queta, Nemius. Oh god.
Neemias Queta, I think. Something like that. We might be. I feel like we've said a couple of names wrong in this podcast, so my apologies for that. First
Yeah,
was the groundhog, and now this guy. So sorry.
and Micic or Misic. Yeah, we're all over
Yeah,
them.
that's also a mystery. So yeah, not our finest, but that's fine. We're here for basketball insight, not really pronunciation.
But
Um, cool. Yeah. Do you want to part two this? I've got a couple other trades like to mention. I think they're kind of shitty trades, so I'm cool with including them in the part two. But yeah, I think that kind of does it for anything meaningful or impactful.
sweet. Part 2 coming right up. We're back.
All right, part two. I had a couple more trades I want to talk about, not super significant. I thought the funniest one was the Dennis Schroeder for Spencer Dinwiddie, just straight up. And the Raptors immediately cut Dinwiddie. So the trade is essentially just get Schroeder off their roster, which was awesome. It was kind of a shitter trade because and then like I don't even really know what the upside was for the Nets in doing it. Like they kind of just get Schroeder and get rid of Dinwiddie. So like I don't know what happened with that. It just kind of felt like a shitstorm for both sides.
Yeah, there was a great tweet from, I think her name is Molly Morrison.
Yes,
Um,
she's awesome.
yeah, she's great.
Come on the podcast. This is your official invite.
I forget. She's like a big fan of a team that's not good. Fuck, I forget who. But anyway, the tweet was in essence, making this trade, having to have two guys uproot their lives for a trade of such little significance is crazy. And it does feel like a pretty meaningless trade. But do we know where Dinwiddie landed? Is he in LA?
Yes, yeah, he's officially with the Lakers. He was deciding between Dallas and LA. Decided with LA, and he gave like a weird quote about the Mavericks culture. So like I don't know, do with that as you will. But he decided to go to LA, which I think is a fine spot for him. But I think it's a move that probably doesn't really move the needle for the Lakers. I think they're still mids, but he's a good addition, especially since you know off-season additions that they really liked, such as Gabe Vincent, have been worthless. So at least you have someone who can give you meaningful minutes. Dinwiddie's a good player. He's far better than Gabe Vincent.
If I'm the Nets, I would do the trade. I much prefer Dennis Schroeder to Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't know what Dennis Schroeder's contract looks like, but I assume
I
it's
mean, they traded them straight up, so I assume the contracts are pretty similar. Like, I don't think there was any filler or anything in that deal. I think it was like just one for one. And I feel like I think I think Schroeder's probably on a shorter deal, but I remember the Raptors kind of gave him a decent deal.
yeah, I want to say it's 2-3 years. Yeah, 2 year, 25 million. So,
I mean,
he-
that's favorable then I think because I think Dinwiddie might be making like 20 million a year.
yeah, and so he'll be there for
So
another year after this one, making like 12 million.
yeah, so I guess maybe the point was to like, I don't know, because I gotta find the old contract now for Dinwiddie.
He
All
was
right, this is
like
gonna be too hard to find his old contract.
right now.
But I mean, like Dinwiddie straight got cut, so it's like why couldn't the Nets just like cut him, or like maybe they were going to and just figured they might as well get Schroeder in the move. I don't know. This one's kind of a head scratcher. Maybe somebody knows, but I do not.
I think he was making like 20 million on an expiring deal.
Right, so maybe they save money this year by making the move, but then they have to pay Schroeder next year, so it's like okay.
But maybe they want Schroeder. He's a good player.
Yeah,
He's
he's
a
fine.
world champion.
Yeah, I mean, like he'd kind of been pushed out of the Raptors rotation, but or at least he'd been relegated to the bench. So, but I guess it's fine. Like maybe they view him as a player they can get assets for over the summer. Like if he's making $12 million on expiring, somebody's going to trade for him out there. So I do think they probably get a little more value out of having him than having Dinwiddie. So I guess that's it. I don't know. I've already spent too much time on this trade. It was very insignificant.
Any other last trades you
Uh,
want?
yeah, one more weird one I want to shout out. It was the Raptors trading for
Mm.
Olynyk and Ogbaji for essentially salary filler, and they gave up a first round pick to get them, which felt weird because I thought there was going to be a team that was going to be willing to give up a decent pick for Olynyk. Didn't think it'd be a first. I thought it'd be like a couple second round picks, but I figured it'd be a contending team, like wanting to add a veteran center who's like a pretty good passer, great shooter for his size. And it ended up being the Raptors who are competing for nothing. They suck, and Olynyk's expiring and is going to be gone after this year. So don't really know why they added him. I think apparently they've always really liked Agbaji, so maybe that's why they made the move. Like maybe they kind of viewed it as just getting him, and maybe Olynyk is just like a tag along for the move. Not really sure, but I don't really know why Olynyk was a part of this. I don't know why the Raptors want him. That one felt weird.
He's notably Canadian. I think he is from the Toronto area.
Yeah, yeah, him and Barrett. They have a couple Canadians on the team now. It's like that. That feels good. They're trying to rebuild Team Canada, which I respect.
And yeah, they must think they can re-sign Olynyk next year. And I imagine there are some heavy conditions with that first round pick. I think I read that it's like the worst of, I don't even know, but I think it's
Yeah,
super
and
heavily
it's
protected.
yeah, and it's a 2024 first round pick, which those have essentially been dealt out like second rounders this trade deadline because nobody wants picks in this year's draft. Like people have already decided that this is like one of the worst draft classes in the last decade. Like yeah, it's like comparable with like the Anthony Bennett draft class. Like there's no clear top prospect. There isn't even really like a clear line between like the top 5 and like top 10. It's like everyone's still kind of figuring it out, but yeah, it kind of feels like there's not a clear pecking order of prospects and really doesn't feel like any of them are quality prospects. It's a very weird year.
Until March Madness, I don't even think about the next year's draft class. But now that you mention it, yeah, I've not heard of any. Sometimes you hear whispers of some guy or some guy starting to
You yeah, you usually always know the top 3 picks by now. Like usually it's pretty obvious who the top 3 are going to be.
who's there's like a white kid who plays in Maine, but he might not be in college yet. Is that it?
Yeah,
He
or this might be his first year, but I don't think he's going to be going to the draft yet. Like he's not an expected prospect. That guy is awesome. Yeah, it's a weird draft. It's like there's a lot of Europeans who are expected to go like top 10, like way more than usual. I think it's like half the top 10 are supposed to be Europeans, which
Wow.
is like great for EuroLeague. Like clearly they're doing awesome, but also like just makes it feel like a little bit more of a guessing game with the prospects because like US fans aren't as familiar. And I think it also says something just about like the US talent that like clearly nobody's really confident in the college draft class this year. So people are looking elsewhere for potentially the best players.
One prospect I know is for some reason I've just like fallen into the TikTok loophole of Eli Ellis, I think his name is. He's this like he plays for the overtime league, the OTE or whatever, and he's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but he's tiny. Um, and seems I don't know if I love his personality, but him and his brother are these like short white kids, and they're just like, especially him, he drops like 50 a night. It's kind of ridiculous. And he used to play with the Thompson twins too.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like you kind of mentioned personality. For some reason, I feel like overtime elite kind of, I don't know. I feel like there are always a lot of questionable personalities on that team. Like it feels very AAU always. Like it's like Thompson twins, Jalen Green. Um, I guess I was Scoot overtime elite. No, he might have played on a different one, but like still. And Scoot I actually think is a better attitude than a guy like Jalen Green, but
Yeah, I feel like we're getting confused because I think Scoot, Green, Kaminga, they're all the G League thing. I think that's different.
yes, you're right. You're right. Because overtime elite is just for people under a certain age threshold.
Yeah. I think the Thompson twins were the
G
first.
League Ignite, G League Ignite. Yes, and
Yeah.
Thompson twins were they were the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, the OT league is very strange. But let's not get into it, but it is a bit of a weird
Yeah. Well, when we're closer to the draft, we'll do our prospect analysis and we can kind of talk more about that then. Anyway, that really does it for the trades that I care about. So should we talk about teams who did not make trades?
I feel like there's a few obvious ones and is there so much to say? I don't know, maybe The
We'll kind of
Bulls,
see
the
it. It might be more of
Hawks.
like yeah. Sorry, go for it.
It's for me, it's the Bulls and the Hawks, and it's like, guys, like, whoa, what's going on is not working. And they're still just sitting on their hands. So I don't know. I don't know. Is there any other teams I'm forgetting that stuck out? Because I feel like we've beaten that horse, and that horse is
Yeah. I still kind of want to beat the horse a little bit more, but
yeah, beat it.
other teams I would throw out, and maybe we talk about these guys first, would be Nets were an interesting team who didn't make any deals. And then kind of like smaller, like the Blazers opted not to trade Brogdon. I thought they probably should have tried to get what they could for him, but yeah, let's start with the Nets. The Nets were super weird because apparently like they did have this offer from the Houston Rockets to trade Mikal Bridges to Houston, and they would get back a lot of their picks from the original James Harden trade, which would then allow them to be bad by losing Bridges. They get their picks back so they can actually tank and get something out of it. And they opted not to. They're like, we're not doing it, which I just don't understand. So now
Yeah.
they have Mikal Bridges. They're still terrible, but they don't have any of their own picks. So they're not going to be able to rebuild. They can't build anything around him now. So they're pretty much just like stuck being the 11th seed unless they can get the same offer from Houston next year. But I really don't see a single way out of the Nets' current predicament without making a trade with the Rockets to get their picks back. And they had it and they didn't take it. And I cannot believe it.
Yeah, and I don't know. You hear rumors that they could have gotten some decent return for like Finney Smith.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
2 first round picks. Like, guys,
that seems
take that. What are you
extreme.
trying to do?
No way.
I think it was last year that it was 2 first round
Oh,
picks. Um, which at the time like was not that extreme. Like at that point, like teams were very into him. And I think early this year it was 1 first round pick, and then by the deadline he was worth nothing. Um, yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do right now.
yeah, the Nets are kind of on their own planet. I don't know how to think of them. They have some interesting pieces, but there's no cohesion there, I fear. And
Yeah, they might be trying to run back the D'Lo thing to where if they're like we can be just like fun and decent. Maybe some free agents will want to sign with us as kind of this fun, exciting New York team, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. And they're not fun and decent. Like they're bad and they play ugly basketball. And like although Cam Thomas is electric, like I kind of hate watching him play. Um, and they're just not the team in New York. Like it was kind of like a fun thing with KD and Kyrie, and they're like, oh, maybe this is like the up and coming New York team. But no, the Knicks are so good. Anyone wants to move to New York, they're gonna go play for the Knicks. So they need to rebuild. They need to figure it out. They should have figured it out this year. Hopefully they do next year.
yeah, yeah, I hadn't really thought too much about it, but they're definitely in what's it called, purgatory a bit there, where
Very
they
much so. Like their purgatory, I think, was worse than anybody else's in the league. Because at least like a team like the Bulls, although it feels like they can't really get anything for their assets anymore because they waited so long, they can at least pull the ultimate fail safe, which is just like get rid of everybody for nothing, be bad, and at least you have your own pick to where you can get like a top 3, top 5 prospect, do that for a couple of years, rebuild. But like the Nets can, like the Nets can't. Like if they pull the plug and trade players, they still don't have any of their own picks. So they're going to be bad for nothing. And if they trade Mikal Bridges to a team like, I don't even really know what the picks were right now, but let's say they trade him to like the Thunder or something like that for like 5 or 6 first round picks, like awesome. But like these first round picks are all going to be like end of the first round, like borderline second round picks. Like, and like the only way they can get good picks back from Mikal is to make a trade with the Rockets and get their own picks.
yeah, they
So
don't have
I don't get it.
until 2026. Um, I guess is it going to be the 2024, the 2024 draft, I guess, right? So I think they might not have any picks this upcoming draft, which as you said,
Yeah, and I think they'd be selling high on McHale also. Like teams are still offering like 4 or 5 first round picks for him. And I kind of think he's worth like 3. Like I think he's good, but he's had the keys to the castle this year, and everyone kind of expected him to like go off, score like 26, 27, 28 points per game. And he's the top guy, and he's averaging like 21, 22 points per game. Like he hasn't been great. Like it's pretty clear that he's not cut out to be a number 1 or number 2 option.
yeah,
Maybe he can be like a number 3 option. I think that's a great fit for him. But he might be more of like a Chris Middleton type guy than like this like superstar two-way small forward. So like if they could have got 5 first round picks for him or even 4 from Houston, done deal.
yeah, Yeah, they have the Phoenix picks in 2025 and 2027, but that
Yeah,
doesn't look like it's gonna. Yeah,
like that's not saving them, and that's
no,
years
it's
from
not.
now, and it's still very possible that, and like Booker is so young, like it's super possible those picks are just not very good.
For sure. Yeah. And it goes back to the point we always make, like, pick a direction, because being the 10th, 11th seed is not really a viable option for the future. The Hawks, I mean, it seemed that a DeJounte Murray trade was imminent, and obviously that didn't happen. I've been a big proponent recently of just like fuck Trae Young, get something back for him, because I do think they have talent, young talent on this team that could be fun and kind of be just as good without Trae Young. If you get some return there, but like DeJounte Murray, I know he can't be the number one option on a good team, but he can be for a while. And I just love Jalen Johnson. We're seeing Okongwu kind of finally the baton being passed there from Clint Capella. Even though I don't know, Okongwu, I'm kind of hot and cold on. But
Yeah, I think he's still young. I think he's still a tad raw, but I see the potential. I see the potential.
yeah, and Bogdanovich and AJ Griffin is someone that I'm starting to think could be decent. And Jalen Johnson's fucking awesome. So I
He's
don't
so
know,
good. He was such
get
a good
like
pick.
a couple first round picks and maybe some interesting players and give up on Trae Young. I don't care if he's, I don't know.
Yeah, and like it would be hard to like move a guy of Trae Young's caliber because like he is like an all-star. The
He's not.
stats the stats would say he's like borderline superstar, although the eyeball test probably says otherwise. But he averages like 30 points and 11 assists every season. Like he's absolutely incredible. So I think they would get a treasure trove for him. Like I think they would literally get like 6 first round picks from him. They get like I don't want to say he's gonna get like Kevin Durant Hall. Like I don't think it's gonna be like 8 picks where it's like 4 first, 4 swaps, maybe like 3 first, 3 swaps. So they could definitely jumpstart like a really good rebuild by moving off him. But that is like such a hard pill to swallow, like essentially pulling the plug so early on this guy you drafted top 5, who is an all-star, who has been on playoff runs for this team. Like that is just like that is such a hard move to make to be like, yeah, we just can't be good enough with him. We They haven't really done a good enough job getting talent around him, although like the talent's there, but like there isn't like the DeJounte fit's not great, and you're still kind of waiting to see more from a couple other guys that they drafted. So it's a really tough spot to be in. But you might be right. You might be right. Just like jumpstart a little bit, trade him, maybe even trade DeJounte too if you're going to trade Trae Young and just like restart, get all the picks, be bad, see what we have with Jalen Johnson and Okongwu, and yeah, just restart. And maybe Trae Young will tank whatever team he goes to, and then you get good picks.
And you sent me that article where it seems like the rumblings are starting where maybe the Hawks are more interested in moving Trae Young at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and like I was reading the article and didn't really insinuate that the Hawks were like gearing up to do anything like that, but it was essentially saying that there are GMs around the league who think it's possible, and they're essentially starting to put together packages being like, okay, like if Trae Young becomes available this offseason, what could we offer? So that makes me think they do have a little bit of information to that leads them to think that Trae Young at least is not untouchable at the moment, which does matter. So that would be interesting. Um, yeah, and then to go back to DeJounte, like not trading him this year, I actually think that was a fine thing to do. He's a really good player. His contract is awesome. He only makes like I think 25-ish million a year. So if they weren't going to get a ton of assets back for him, just wait until the summer. And apparently with all like pick protections and pick swaps, a lot of teams are kind of tied up with that right now. And after the draft, a lot more flexibility is going to open up and teams are going to be able to trade more picks. So I think that's also why we didn't see like a ton of big moves happen at the deadline this year, because a lot of teams kind of realized they could wait until the summertime and teams will have more picks available. So naturally they'll be able to get more for their players. So I think it was a fine move to hold on to DeJounte. You've got him under contract, so there's really no reason to rush him out of there.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe we'll see the moves happening in the summer. But I don't know. I feel like I had said that maybe Trae Young is the one that they should be looking to trade. I don't think it was like a unique thought or opinion, but seeing this
I think you
article,
were early on it. You were early.
All right, I'll take it. But yeah, now it seems that maybe that could happen because I feel like the Hawks, I don't know, they don't feel like the least self-aware franchise. They know that they're not in the best position right now, and they've been frisky, but like feels like it's it's time to move on, and they finally have guys like Jalen Johnson that feel like they can pass the baton to, and that's a good foundation there for starting a new team, a new direction.
Yeah. The thing that just sucks though is like Trey Young, like just he is still young and he's really good. So it's like if you trade him for a bunch of picks, like are you going to be able to draft somebody better than Trey Young? I don't know. That's hard to do. It's hard to get good players in the draft. So I feel like that's what's going to make it really difficult to part ways with him. Especially since they and I don't know how anybody still talks about this, but it is kind of crazy that they essentially took him over Luca because like they were in the spot to take Luca, traded down and take Trey Young, and it's crazy that they're the same draft because they're both awesome, but like Luca is just like so much better.
Literally, they swapped, right? Basically.
Yeah, basically, like I think the Hawks got like an additional pick or something by moving down like two spots, but like nothing major.
It is tough because yeah, no, Trey Young is the face of that franchise. In my mind, I have a mean joke.
You can say it.
Not
You can say it. We're late enough into the podcast right now that only the real fans are left.
it's not the prettiest face of a franchise, is what I'll say. And I don't think he's that ugly, to be honest. He's not the most attractive guy in the NBA, but more just so like his personality and everything. Like I know
Yeah.
the Hawks have lacked that for a very long time. Even in kind of that era with Horford and Millsap, it feels like Trey is like really the first franchise player since Wilkins, and it's tough to give that up. But um, I don't know. I think the grass can definitely be greener, and I just there's no world where I think this is a top team in the East with Trey Young on that roster. Like it's been 5 6 years. I get that he's 25, but I would personally move on, and maybe I'll eat my words there, but.
Yeah, and they are in no man's land right now, and I think it's pretty evident that that one playoff run was essentially like a fluke because we've seen a lot more years of them being bad in that one year. So yeah, it might be. I think they're probably going to cling on to hope, and I think we probably will see them move DeJounte this offseason to give it one more go with Trey Young and just say like maybe that fit wasn't the right thing. Let's just surround him with these like good small forwards that we have amassed and just put around some good defenders, good lob catchers, decent shooters. See how that works and then give it 1 or 2 more years, then pull the plug. So it's like I think the conversation's starting now. I think the Hawks are gonna desperately try to make this work, and then if they can't, then the discussions will start.
Yeah. And I know I'm redundant, but Trey Young, extremely talented offensive player, but he demands the ball and like his usage is just too crazy and offers nothing on the other end. And I think it sours
Yeah,
with teammates. I think Kevin Huerter on Zach Lowe a while ago kind of insinuated that it can be tough playing with Trey Young and just, John Collins, not that he was like some crazy talent, but it feels like it's tough to play with Trey Young.
for sure, for sure. Like people definitely they prefer not to play with him. He's just like the classic ball hog at the gym. It's like no one can get the rock, and then it's like he just chucks up like a 40-foot shot, and it's like, all right, sick, dude. And weirdly, he's like not that efficient of a 3-point shooter. Like he likes to act like he's Steph Curry, but he's like a 35% career 3-point shooter, which is not very good. Um, so yeah, no, I get it. He definitely feels like the classic player where it's like, yeah, he gets good stats, but like, does he contribute to winning? Feels like he doesn't really. So we'll see. The Hawks have some hard conversations to have this off season. So we'll see what they do. We'll revisit them.
We for sure will. Yeah. And I love DeJounte Murray. Again, I feel like I'm being a bit redundant, but I know he has his shortcomings offensively, but overall I just think he's like an awesome second, third option. Um, Plays super hard and he's just like great. Pretty good on both ends. Like I would try to keep him. How old is he? Probably like 26 or something.
Yeah, maybe like 27 or something.
Yeah,
But
26.
he is a good piece though, and he was so good for the Spurs. So it's like I don't. It feels like it could have been a buy low if someone could have like stolen him this trade deadline for like 1 or 2 first round picks because for those who don't remember, like when he was playing for the Spurs, it's like he was like I think it was all defensive first team, and he was averaging nearly a triple double. Like the dude was absolutely ridiculous for the Spurs when he was playing point guard, which probably is more so his true position. So having to play off ball for Trae Young is not really a great spot for him. And I think it has like diminished his value a little bit. Like, I think he still could be a really good player. I would be intrigued to see him
Absolutely.
actually take on the point guard position again for a team.
Yeah, yeah. Let him be the man, and you've got great pieces. And I guarantee that team is like at least a seventh, eighth seed, which I know is not great, but like again, you can find the other piece through the Trae Young trade. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, and DeJounte's like he's not like a great shooter by any means. So like it never really made sense to put him next to Trae Young and have him essentially play off ball from Trae. I think the idea was they're hoping Trae Young would be willing to play more off ball and kind of like square up as a shooter, thus improving his efficiency, letting DeJounte cook. There was no way that was ever going to happen. So it did just turn into very much like my turn, your turn, with I think Trae Young eating a lot more than anybody else. So just not a great fit.
anyway, I think we've said what needs to be said about the Hawks. And are there any other teams? I mean, the Nets, the Bulls, the Hawks. Our condolences to those fans because they are in NBA purgatory.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
worse place to be. So our condolences.
our condolences. No other teams really jump out as far as like why didn't you make a move? To me, those were the big three. I'm sure there's one or two that
Yeah. I had one more I wanted to mention. It wasn't really surprising that they didn't make a move, but I just thought they were like worth mentioning.
sure.
It's like the Lakers notably did not make a trade at the
Uh,
deadline. And like they're obviously like kind of like the front runners to get DeJounte. And I actually thought it was good that they didn't make a trade. I thought it was fine. Because D'Lo has been awesome for them recently to where I wasn't really sure if like giving up D'Lo and a first round pick was gonna be worth it for DeJounte. So they stayed put, which I think was perfect because it's starting to feel like D'Lo's a really good fit for them. Like he's just an awesome shooter. He's been really hot recently, and that's kind of what they need. So I think they need D'Lo shooting a little bit more than they need DeJounte's ball handling. So I think it's fine that they stayed put.
yeah, there's always the expectation that they're going to make a big move because they do it a lot, and they obviously want to.
Yeah, and they're underperforming. So
Yeah,
do something to turn around the season.
when you've got LeBron, you're always trying to. But they didn't, and I'm not super optimistic about the rest of their season. But like you said, D'Lo's been great, and they could, there's some world where they could win some playoff matchups and maybe make the conference finals again. I don't see that being the world, but shit, it happened last year, so we're on.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of agree. Like I don't think they're gonna go too far, but we'll see. I think it's fine they didn't make any moves and they can retool this offseason, kind of like the Warriors, where it's like, you know what, this is your year. Don't sell your future assets to take a not very good team to, the seventh or eighth seed. Like wait for the offseason. Really put your heads together with your front office and try to figure out a meaningful move that can like really get you into contention. Because yeah, the Lakers feel a little too far gone right now to where I don't think like a minor move is enough to get them into the contending zone.
Yeah, who would have known that Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, and Cam
The
Reddish?
Lakers fans were so hype about this offseason. I think we immediately were like, these are not good moves. Like this team's not going to be good.
Uh, the standings are interesting, man, because they're in ninth. The Warriors are slightly heating up. They're in 10th. The Rockets are in 12th. Wow, I'm surprised that they're so far down, but
Yeah, they have kind of fallen off as of recently, which is like, sucks to see as someone who really enjoys Rockets basketball, but I think it's fine for them. Like the West is like really tight right now. A lot of good teams, so really no shame in it, and they're still young, so I think it probably is for the best. Like if they can get another like top 10 pick, like sure, why not?
yeah, the Mavericks are 8th, and they're a few games ahead of the Lakers still. So there's kind of a gap where it feels like Rockets, Lakers, Warriors are going to be fighting for that ninth and 10th spot. Pelicans are surging. That's cool to see.
Pelicans are awesome. I love the Pelicans.
Yeah, maybe
Fifth
we.
seed right now, man. I think I had them at like third when I did my rankings, which was clearly way too high. Like they're not going to pass
Well,
T Wolves, Thunder, Clippers, Nuggets, but um, they're not too far off. Like they've looked awesome. They looked awesome. Like this team is really complete right now. It just feels like they need like one of their guys to kind of just take like just like a little step up to get closer to like a superstar tier. You know, whether it's BI, Zion, like I don't really know, but it feels like they're close. Like it's a very complete roster.
Well, yeah, you talked about the BI jump happening and how you think that,
Yeah, I think it will be Brandon Ingram. I think it'll be him over Zion.
and yeah, Zion could still take a little leap. Maybe we delve into it more in another episode, but it's cool to see them surging because they had a bit of a slow start to the season, but now it seems that things are coming into fruition, and you were on top of that, obviously.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start talking playoffs with the next episode. Maybe we'll do something where we kind of like run through playoff seeding and how things might shake out.
For sure. But I think for the trade deadline we can wrap up and say that it's been unless you have any other little final thoughts, I don't want to.
Nope, that's everything. Wrap us up.
It's been another episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. Smash that like button, that subscribe button, that share button, that bell notification button. I don't know if there are any other buttons. Um, but yeah, peace and love. We appreciate the support, and we're gonna keep it going. Doesn't matter. We're gonna keep it going.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in as always. Yeah, and until next time.
See you guys.